Sometimes the dream killer is no longer outside of you. You listened to discouragement so long you became the voice. Nobody has to tell you you can't, you tell yourself. Nobody has to say you're too old, you say it to yourself. Nobody has to say people won't care. You already decided that they won't. See, nobody has to stop you anymore because you've learned how to stop yourself. See, that's when you have to start challenging your internal language. When your mind says, I can't do that, respond, I haven't learned how yet. When it says, I'm not ready, say, I can prepare. When it says, I'm afraid, say, fear can ride with me, but it cannot drive. When it says, what if I fail, say, then I'll learn. Stop being the person holding the vacuum against your own dream.
Who am I? Yeah, I'm more than the pain, more than the pride. Who am I? Who am I? Walking in purpose, no mask, no disguise. This is my voice, my rise, my life. Welcome to Who Am I?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Who Am I podcast. I am your host, Jeff Hopgood, and today we are going somewhere because I believe that somebody listening to me right now has a dream inside of them that is fighting for oxygen. You know exactly what to do. You can see it, you can feel it, you have imagined it, and maybe you've even started working towards it. But every time you get excited, somebody shows up with the reason why it won't work. Somebody has a criticism, somebody has an opinion, somebody has a warning, somebody wants to remind you of your past. Somebody wants to tell you what you're incapable of doing. And after hearing enough voices, you start questioning the one voice you should have been listening to all along. And you know what that voice is? That voice is your own. It's your own voice that you should be listening to. That is why today's episode is called Dream Killers. Today's episode is Dream Killers. And I want to talk about staying true to who you are, believing in what's inside of you, and refusing to allow somebody who has never, ever walked your road to dictate your next step. But before we get started, you know what time it is. I want you to answer these questions privately. Don't answer based on what sounds good, but I want you to answer them honestly. Please do. What dreams have you talked yourself out of because somebody else didn't believe in it? Not because you couldn't do it, not because you didn't have the ability, and not because you didn't even have the desire, but because somebody made you feel foolish for believing it was possible. Think about it for a second. Next, whose voice do you hear when you begin doubting yourself? Is it yours? Is it your own voice? Or does that voice sound like somebody from your childhood? Is it a former relationship, a parent, a friend, a supervisor, somebody who laughed when you shared an idea, somebody who told you you can't do that? That'll never work. You're wasting your time. Be realistic. Have anybody ever told you be realistic? I hate those folks. But people like us don't do things like that. Have you heard that phrase? Whose voice has been renting space inside of your confidence? Question number 3. Have you confused somebody's fear with wisdom? Have you confused somebody's fear with wisdom? See, that one right there, that's the big one. Because sometimes people don't advise you based on what's possible for you. They advise you based on what they would be afraid to attempt themselves. And finally, question number 4. If nobody could criticize you, if nobody could laugh at you, if nobody could discourage you, what would you actually attempt? What would you actually attempt? Sit with that for a second. Because today we're talking about dream killers. We're going there. We really are. We're going there because this is something that needs to be heard and needs to be dealt with. So let me ask you a question. What if the reason your dream never grew wasn't because the dream was too small, but because every time it started breathing, you allowed somebody to put their hands around its neck? What if your greatest obstacles isn't money, not education, not your age, not your background, not even your connections? What if your greatest obstacles is that you keep handing the microphone to people who don't believe in the song inside of you? Listen to me and hear me clearly. Some dreams don't die because they were impossible. They die because they were discussed with the wrong people. Some visions should never have been brought into certain rooms. Some goals should have never, ever been handed to people who couldn't only understand life through limitations. Because everybody who loves you doesn't necessarily have the capacity to understand you. Let me say that again. Some goals should never have been handed to people who could only understand life through limitations. Because everybody who loves you doesn't necessarily have the capacity to understand you. And everybody standing beside you isn't qualified to direct you. You have to learn something here. And this is the lesson. Your life is not a community voting booth. Everybody does not get a ballot. Everybody does not get a vote. Everybody does not get to decide whether or not you move. Everybody does not get to decide what you exactly become. At some point, hear me when I say this, you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, I believe in what God placed inside of me enough to take the next step, even when nobody else understands it. When nobody else understands it. So let me tell you a story about the man who kept losing his dream. See, there was a man named Malcolm. Ever since Malcolm was a little boy, he dreamed, and he dreamed big. He dreamed differently than everybody around him. When other children saw an empty lot, Malcolm saw a building. When other people saw an old broken bicycle, Malcolm imagined a repair shop. When somebody threw away a piece of wood, Malcolm saw a table. He had one of those minds that could look at what was and imagine what it could become. But Malcolm grew up in a house where dreaming was considered dangerous. His father believed in survival. His mother believed in security. His relatives believed in being realistic. And nobody around Malcolm seemed to understand the way his imagination worked. When Malcolm was 12 years old, he told his uncle, one day, I'm going to build things. His uncle laughed. Not a little laugh, one of those laughs that makes a child feel embarrassed for speaking. I mean, one of those gut-wrenching laughs. His uncle said, boy, you better worry about passing school. And that night, something strange happened. Malcolm had a dream. In his dream, he was standing in a beautiful workshop. There were tables everywhere, drawings, tools, blueprints, furniture he had built with his own hands. Can you imagine that? People were standing around looking at everything he had created. Malcolm felt so proud. But suddenly, Malcolm heard a noise. Vroom. A loud vacuum cleaner rolled through the door. Holding it was his uncle. His uncle pointed the hose towards Malcolm's workshop, and suddenly the drawings lifted from the table. The blueprints flew through the air. The tools disappeared. The furniture broke apart into pieces and shot into the hose. Malcolm screamed, "Stop!" But his uncle kept vacuuming until the entire workshop was empty. Malcolm woke up. He was sweating. His heart was pounding. But he was 12, so he forgot about it, or at least he thought he did. Years later, Malcolm fell in love with music. He could play piano by ear. Nobody taught him. He would sit down and hear melodies other people couldn't hear. See, when Malcolm played, people stopped talking. I mean, dead silence. They were amazed. There was something in his hands. One afternoon, Malcolm told one of his friends, I think I want to record music. His friends looked at him and said, man, you know how many people are trying to make it in music? You need to get serious about your life. And Malcolm laughed, but inside something sank that night. Malcolm dreamed again. He was standing on a stage. Thousands of people were watching him. Lights were shining. His fingers touched the piano. The first note rang through the room. The audience became silent. It was so beautiful. It was the melody he had carried in his head for years. But then he heard it. He looked to the side of the stage, and his friend was standing there holding the vacuum. Malcolm tried to keep playing, but the vacuum began pulling the notes out of the air one by one. The music twisted through the room like ribbons being sucked through the holes. Malcolm played harder, but every note disappeared. The lights were sucked away. The piano disappeared. The stage, then the audience, until Malcolm was standing there alone in complete darkness. So he woke up. And within a few months, he stopped playing. And maybe that's how dreams really die. Not all at once, not with some dramatic ending, not because someone reached inside of you and physically removed the dream. Sometimes it happens quietly. One comment, one laugh, one doubtful look, one person telling you to be realistic, one person making you feel foolish for believing there could be more for your life. And little by little, the volume of their voice gets louder, while the volume of your dreams gets lower. See, Malcolm didn't stop playing music because he suddenly hated music. He stopped because somebody planted enough doubt inside of him that eventually he had started questioning something he once believed in without hesitation. And that's what makes dream killers so dangerous. See, they don't always walk into your life looking like enemies. Sometimes they sit at your dinner table. Sometimes they share your last name. Sometimes they've known you for your entire life. And sometimes they genuinely care about you. And sometimes they don't even realize they're holding the vacuum. Because here's something we have to understand. Not every person who kills a dream intends to kill it. Sometimes people are simply handing you the fears, limitations, disappointments, and failures they never learned how to overcome themselves. And if you're not careful, you'll mistake their fear for wisdom, their limitations for reality, and their inability to see your future as proof that your future doesn't exist. Which brings me to something very important. Sometimes dream killers don't know they're dream killers. And let me say something important. Not every dream killer is evil. Some of them love you. Some of them genuinely think they are protecting you. Some of them are trying to save you from disappointment, but protection can become a prison when somebody's fear determines the size of your life. Protection can become a prison when somebody's fear determines the size of your life. Understand this and hear me clearly. People can only advise you from the boundaries of what they believe is possible. If somebody has never taken a risk will sound irresponsible to them. If somebody has never built anything, starting from nothing will sound foolish. And if somebody never recovered from failure, they may teach you to fear failure too. If somebody abandoned their dreams, their determination may make them uncomfortable. Sometimes your courage reminds people of everything they were afraid to do. And instead of confronting their fears, they try to shrink your faith. Now let's go back to Malcolm. Malcolm had another dream. At this time, Malcolm is an adult. He got a respectable job, good benefits, a steady paycheck. He did everything everybody told him he was supposed to do. He worked, paid bills, bought a house, went to work, came home, went to sleep, got up, went back to work. From the outside, Malcolm looked successful, but every once in a while, he would drive past a little storefront for rent. And something inside of him would whisper, you could build something there. He then ignored it. Then one day, Malcolm got an idea. He wanted to open a small woodworking studio. He could see it clearly. Furniture, custom pieces, classes for young people, a place where children could learn how to build things with their very own hands. Can you imagine that? He drew out the business plan. He researched the equipment. He found a building. For the first time in years, Malcolm felt alive again. Then he made the mistakes that kills a lot of dreams. He told everybody, and I mean everybody. He told relatives, friends, neighbors. That neighborhood isn't good enough, they said. He told another, you're going to leave a good job for that? He told a coworker, most businesses fail. He told someone else, do you really know? Do you really know what you're doing? He told another friend, you should probably wait. Wait. Every conversation added another pound to his feet. And Malcolm went from moving to hesitating, from hesitating to postponing to doing absolutely nothing. And one night, Malcolm dreamed again. But this dream was different. He was standing inside the woodworking studio. It was beautiful. Children were learning. Furniture was being built. His name was over the door. I mean, in big, bold, bright letters. Malcolm's workshop. Can you imagine that? Then the door opened. His family walked in. His coworkers walked in. His friends walked in. Every person who had discouraged him was standing there, and every single person was holding a vacuum cleaner. Malcolm looked around. No. They turned them on. Vroom, vroom, vroom. 20 vacuums at once. Then the furniture started sliding. The tools flew into the air. The signs ripped from the walls. The children drawing shots towards the holes. Malcolm grabbed one of the tables. He held on as tightly as he could. But the suction was too strong. Everything was disappearing. And Malcolm shouted, stop taking my dreams. And suddenly, everything stopped. Silence. Everybody looked at Malcolm. His father stepped forward and said, son, we never took them. Malcolm looked so confused. I mean, very confused. Can you imagine the confused look on Malcolm's face? His father pointed towards Malcolm's hand, and Malcolm looked down. There was something in his hand, a long orange extension cord. Malcolm followed the cord with his eyes. It ran across the floor and into the wall. Every vacuum cleaner was plugged into it, but the other end of the extension cord was in Malcolm's hand. His father looked at him and said, you, Malcolm, kept giving us the power. Malcolm froze. He looked around. Every vacuum was connected to the same source, him. And Malcolm finally understood the problem wasn't that people had opinions. People will always have opinions. The problem was that Malcolm kept plugging those opinions into his confidence. He kept allowing them to draw power from his belief. He kept giving everybody access to his dreams. He kept handing people permission to determine whether his vision deserved to live. So Malcolm did something he had never done before. You know what he did? He pulled the plug. At that time, every vacuum shut off. Silence. Then something so incredible began to happen. Everything that had been sucked away started coming back. The piano appeared, the music returned, the blueprints flew back onto the table, the tools came back, the furniture returned, the stage. Can you imagine that big old stage appearing? The audience reappeared, and Malcolm saw every version of himself he had once abandoned. The 12-year-old builder, the musician, the entrepreneur, the teacher, the creator, they were all standing around him waiting. And the 12-year-old version of Malcolm walked towards him. He looked up at the grown man he had become and said, "What took you so long?" Malcolm woke up crying. The next morning, he called the landlord and rented the building. So I said all that to say this. Pull the plug. And somebody listening to me right now, you need to pull the plug, not necessarily on people, but on their access to your confidence. You don't have to hate anybody. You don't have to become disrespectful. You don't have to argue. You don't have to prove anything to anyone, but you have to stop letting everybody's opinion become electricity inside your decisions. So pull the plug. Stop asking people who never started a business whether you should start yours. Stop asking people who hate their own careers whether you should pursue the career you love. Stop asking people who never started a business whether you should start yours. Stop asking people who hate their own careers whether you should pursue the career you love. Stop asking someone who abandoned their dreams whether yours is realistic or not. Stop handing unfinished dreams to people who only know how to criticize construction. You wouldn't invite somebody into a construction site and complain because the walls aren't painted yet. It's under construction, and so are you. See, some dreams need privacy. Every dream, and everything doesn't need an announcement. Every move doesn't need a Facebook post. Every idea doesn't need a committee. Every plan doesn't need 10 opinions. There are things you need to work on quietly where nobody knows what you're doing. Have you ever heard the phrase, "Don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing"? So build it quietly, develop it quietly, research it, pray over it, learn, prepare, then move. And I say that because of this, because sometimes talking about a dream too early exposes a seed to whether it isn't strong enough to survive. See, you don't dig up a seed every morning to see whether it's growing. You know what you do? You water it, you protect it, and you trust the process. You do the exact same thing with your visions. You do that with your visions. So you also have to know this. You have to know the difference between counsel and control. You have to know the difference between counsel and control, because not everybody who questions you is a dream killer. You need wise counsel. You need people who can tell you the truth. But there is a difference between somebody helping you improve a plan and somebody trying to own the plan. And this is the difference. This is the difference between wise counsel and control. Wise counsel says, "Have you considered this?" But control says, "You need to do what I said." Wise counsel asks, "How can I help?" But control says, "If you don't do it my way, you're making a mistake." See, wise counsel strengthens your thinking when control replaces your thinking. Don't confuse domination with guidance. Your life belongs to you. You have to live with the consequences of your own decisions. Therefore, you must have a voice in your own directions. Next, stop needing everybody to understand you. See, this principle right here will set somebody free. This principle right here will set someone free. And I say that because of this. Everybody is not going to understand your vision, so stop trying to explain it until they do. Somebody might never see what you see, and that's okay. That's okay. You do not need a unanimous approval, you need conviction. See, a pilot flying an airplane doesn't walk through the cabin every 10 minutes asking passengers, "Do y'all think I should turn left?" Absolutely not. What about right? Uh, Anybody have an opinion? No. The pilot has instruments, a destination, training, directions. So stop handing the steering wheel of your life to passengers. They can ride with you, they can support you, they can enjoy the journey, but everybody in the vehicle cannot drive. See, your capability may be bigger than your current experience. See, sometimes you don't know whether you can do something because you've never done it before. That's normal. Let me say that again. Sometimes you don't know whether you can do something because you never done it before. And that's normal. Every expert once attempted something for the first time. Every speaker once had a first speech. Every speaker once had a first speech. Every business owner once had a first customer. Every author once started at a blank page. Every singer once sang in front of somebody for the first time. Every leader once led for the first time. I say that to say this. Don't confuse inexperience with inability. You can learn, you can grow, you can prepare, you can improve, you can become. You don't have to be qualified for the entire journey today. You only need enough courage to take the next step. See, some people are projecting, not prophesying. Some people are projecting, not prophesying. Listen carefully. Just because somebody predicts your failure doesn't mean they can see your future. Sometimes they're projecting their past onto your possibilities. I tried something and it didn't work. That was their experience. I knew somebody who lost everything. That was their experience. That was somebody else's story. I'm sorry. See, people like us don't succeed doing that. Who said? They'll never support you. Maybe they will. You're going to embarrass yourself. Maybe. But embarrassment has never killed anybody's destiny. Sometimes you got to be willing to look foolish. You got to be willing to look foolish while you're becoming good. See, their prediction is not prophecy. Their fear is not your future. So ask yourself this. What if it actually worked? What if it actually worked? So have you noticed how quickly people ask, what if it doesn't work? What if you fail? What if you lose money? What if nobody supports you? What if they laugh? Okay, but let me flip that. Let me flip that here. What if it works? What if the book becomes successful? What if the business does grow? What if the podcast reaches somebody? What if you go back to school and graduate? What if you start singing and people connect with your music? What if you move and discover an entirely different life? Think about that. What if you launch the idea? What if somebody has been waiting for exactly what you carry? We spend so much time preparing for disaster that we never prepare ourselves for possibilities. Ask a different question. What if I actually can? So don't become a dream killer to yourself. And this is principle number 7. Don't become a dream killer to yourself. And here's the dangerous part. Here's the dangerous part. Sometimes the dream killer is no longer outside of you. You listened to discouragement so long, you became the voice. Nobody has to tell you can't, you tell yourself. Nobody has to say you're too old, you say it to yourself. Nobody has to say people won't care. You already decided that they won't. See, nobody has to stop you anymore because you've learned how to stop yourself. See, that's when you have to start challenging your internal language. When your mind says, I can't do that, respond, I haven't learned how yet. When it says, I'm not ready, say, I can prepare. When it says, I'm afraid, say, fear can ride with me, but it cannot drive. When it says, what if I fail, say, then I'll learn. Stop being the person holding the vacuum against your own dream. So let's go back to Malcolm. Let's go back to Malcolm. See, now, years have passed. Years passed. Malcolm's workshop grew. It wasn't easy. He made mistakes along the way. He lost money sometimes. He had slow months. There were nights he questioned himself, but he kept going. Eventually, his workshop became more than a business. He started teaching teenagers, young people who had been told they weren't smart, young people who struggled in traditional classrooms, young people who needed somebody to show them that their hands could create something beautiful. See, one afternoon, Malcolm noticed a boy sitting alone. The boy had drawn a picture of a building. Malcolm sat beside him. What is that? The boy quickly covered the paper. Nothing. Malcolm smiled. It didn't look like nothing. The boy hesitated. Then he said, I want to design houses one day. Malcolm looked at him. The boy immediately added, but everybody says that's stupid. Malcolm became quiet because for the first time in years, he could hear that vacuum, not literally, but he remembered the sound. The sound of somebody else's doubt trying to suck the life out of a dream. Malcolm reached into a drawer. He pulled out an orange extension card, the same kind he had seen in the dream. He handed it to the boy. The boy looked confused. What is this for? Malcolm said, I want you to keep this. Why? Malcolm smiled and said, so every time somebody tells you what you can't become, remember one thing. The boy looked at him. Malcolm said, they can bring the vacuum, but you decide whether they get the power. So family, I don't know what you're dreaming about. I don't know what you've been putting off. I don't know who discouraged you, but I do know this. You cannot keep giving other people's complete authority over a life they don't have to live. You may listen, you may learn, you may consider wise advice, but eventually you have to make a decision for yourself. So stop waiting for everybody to clap. Stop waiting for everybody to understand. Stop waiting for somebody to give you permission to start. You may never get it. And if your entire future depends on everybody being comfortable with your choices, you will never truly live your own life. See, there comes a moment when you have to say, I believe in what's inside of me. I believe I can learn. I believe I can grow. I believe I can recover if I fail. I believe I can try again. I believe I can become more. I believe there is something in me that deserves the opportunity to breathe. And hear me clearly. Your dream may change. Your direction may shift. Your plan may evolve. That's okay. Believing in yourself does not mean believing you will never be wrong. It means believing that even when you are wrong, you are capable of learning, adjusting, and continuing. Now that's power. So here's your challenge for this week. I want you to write down one dream you have been afraid to pursue. Just one. Not 10, not 5, not 15, not even 2. Just one. One dream. Then right underneath it, whose voice has been stopping me? And be honest. Then ask yourself, is that person living the kind of life I want to live? Have they actually done what I'm trying to do? Are they giving me wisdom or are they giving me fear? Then write this sentence beneath it. They can have an opinion without having control. Read that again. They can have an opinion without having control. Then I want you to ask yourself, what is one step I can take this week without asking anybody, absolutely anybody, for permission? Make the phone call, research the program, buy the domain, write the first page, take the class, apply for the position, record the videos, start training, open the account, make the plan, do something, because dreams survive when movement gives them oxygen. So here's my final word to you. And hear me clearly. Maybe the biggest tragedy isn't failing at your dreams. Maybe the biggest tragedy is reaching the end of your life, looking backwards, and realizing you never gave yourself permission to even try. Imagine meeting the person you could have become and having to explain why you never showed up. I was scared. They didn't believe in me. They laughed. They said it wouldn't work. They thought I should do something different. I don't want that conversation for you. I really don't. I want you to meet the future version of yourself someday. Look at that person in the eye and say, I fought to get here. I tried, I failed, I learned, I adjust. I got back up, I believed. And even when other people couldn't see it, I refused to stop seeing it in myself. So I'm here to tell you, protect the dream, protect your mind, protect your confidence, listen to wisdom, but reject control. Learn from people, but don't surrender yourself to them. And the next time a dream killer walks towards your vision carrying that vacuum, don't waste your energy fighting over the hose. Don't argue, don't yell. Don't beg them to believe in you. Just look down, find the cord, and pull the plug, because they may have the vacuum, they may have the criticism, they may have the opinion, they may even have the doubt, but never forget, you control the power. So remember, you are not your past. You are not your mistake. You are not the label someone placed on your life. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. So until next time, pause, reflect, refocus, and whatever you do, my friend, protect the dream inside of you. So before we move forward, I want you to pause for just a moment. Take a breath. Wherever you are, whatever you're carrying, this next part is for you. Let's speak life over ourselves out loud if you can, because what we say in this very moment has the power to shift how we walk into the rest of our day. So let's begin with our affirmation. I am not defined by my past or limited by my mistakes. I am growing, learning, and becoming who I was created to be. I have values beyond titles, roles, and expectations. I choose honesty over fear and growth over comfort. I am allowed to change, heal, and evolve. I walk with purpose, clarity, and courage. I am becoming more aligned with my true self every day. And who I am is enough. So as we close today's episode, I want to thank you for taking this time for yourself. If something you heard inspired you, challenged you, or made you pause and reflect, please don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with someone who may need it, and invite them into the conversation. See, this podcast only grows when we grow together. I cannot do this without you. And see, we grow together through shared stories, honest reflections, and real connections. See, every listen, every share, every conversation helps create a community rooted in purpose, rooted in love, rooted in hope, rooted in faith, rooted in trust and truth. So until next time, keep reflecting, keep becoming, and remember, you matter. This is the Who Am I podcast, and let's walk this journey together.
Who am I? Yeah, I'm more than the pain, more than the pride. Who am I? Who am I? Walking in purpose, no mask, no disguise. This is my voice, my rise, my life. Welcome to Who Am I?